Hey, welcome back. I hope everybody's doing well. This is the second video in my series about the Insta360 One R camera. And today I'm going to talk about actually using the camera, more specifically using the 360 lens module, because that's the one that everybody wants to know about. Otherwise, the other lenses are pretty much just like a GoPro, so everybody knows what they're doing there. So yeah, today, 360, using it, how to set it up, get started in filming in 360. Let's check it out. Now, before you watch this video, if you haven't already, I highly recommend checking out the first video in the series. This is actually the second one. Go check out the first one. That'll explain what the camera is and some specific things about it. It'll really help you understand some more about the camera that I haven't explained in this one. So go back and check that one out first and then come back to this one. Okay, so when you're using the 360 lens, you need to have it mounted in the cage, and that is because the mounting for the camera to hold it on anything is a GoPro style mounting, and that is part of the cage. So it's a normal forked styled hinge with the tightening bar, as you can see, very GoPro style, and that allows you to loosen it off and angle the camera from the base. And that's a really important thing to know about with the base and mounting the camera. To use in 360 mode, invariably you're going to want to be using it on a selfie stick, and you can either use the official Insta360 selfie stick, or in fact any other selfie stick, just a selfie stick that's going to give you a decent bit of distance from your subject to get the full 360 effect. So when you're going to mount it on the selfie stick, there's something really important to know, and that is that the camera must be always pointing completely vertical in relation to the mount. If you tilt the mount either forwards or backwards, you're going to lose that ability that I spoke about in the first video, where the selfie stick becomes invisible and the camera looks like it's floating in midair, and you get the full decent 360 effect. So you must make sure that that base is completely vertical in relation to the camera, and do it up tight. Do not have the camera tilting on the base at all, and then you can just screw it into your selfie stick in a normal way. And so if you look at it sideways on, I've got the camera completely vertical, not tilted forwards or backwards, and it needs to stay that way. As much as you think you may want to tilt it because you might want the lens looking at a certain thing, you really need to fight that desire. That's not how 360 cameras work, and you must keep it completely vertical. You don't need to be pointing the camera at anything in particular because the lenses see everything. So the only caveat to that is, ideally, but it doesn't really matter, but ideally, the thing that you want to be most in shot, you don't want it in one of these planes. So in the stitching area, if you remember in the first video, I talked about the stitching of the two lenses, and there's a dead zone around the whole camera. And ideally, you don't want to have the dead zone pointing at the thing that you're trying to record. And that's the only caveat, really. So don't tilt the camera to look at whatever it is you want to film, but equally don't have whatever you want to film in the dead zone. So just forward facing at the main subject that you want to film, and everything else will still be captured. So hopefully that's clear. So when your camera's mounted and it's dead vertical, the selfie stick's self-explanatory, just like any other selfie stick, you can extend it out to however big you want and get the full effect. I've actually got some incredibly long selfie sticks that I'll do another video about, that make things really good and can give you a real drone effect. So once it's mounted on the camera, that's all you really need to do hardware wise. And what we'll do now is dive into the settings, and I'll show you around some of the settings and ideally how you should start using it. The way that you can set up the camera, there is a screen here, and when you power on, you can, it's a touch screen, so you can touch your way through the settings. That's fairly adequate. It's a small screen though, and that can get a bit annoying, and if you're like me, you've got kind of fat fingers, it can get a bit annoying, and it's not the most responsive screen. So ideally what you want to do is use the Insta360 app that accompanies the camera. There's an app that you install on your phone, and you basically do all the settings over Wi-Fi. So you do a Wi-Fi connection to your phone from the camera and set everything up from there. So that's what we'll go through now, is using the app or using the screen, and I'll show you why it's better off that you use the app. So let's get stuck into that. Okay, so let's get started. I'm filming this with my GoPro. Hopefully it's good enough to see what's going on the Insta360 One R. Just got this little cable plugged in and the red light's on there just because it's running from an external power supply, charging up because the battery was flat when I started to make this video. Anyway, so yeah, you can ignore that. Right, to begin with, let's turn the power on the camera, and it's that power button on the top. So you just need to push and hold the power button and the camera will come on. You'll see the blue light and it comes on. So there you go, that's powered up, and you can see what's going on with the lenses through the screen. First thing that's kind of cool that is worth noting, you can actually drag around on the screen and basically drag around the entire 360 sphere, which is kind of cool because then you can, you know, frame a shot if you want to, but you know, not so necessary in this situation. But anyway, just something worth noting. Straight away you can see that the touchscreen is not as responsive as it would be nice to be. So if you hit a button on something, it can be fiddly with your fingers to change the settings, and so that's why I highly recommend using the app instead of the camera. But using the camera screen does allow you to do certain things if you're in a hurry and don't want to connect to your phone. To begin with, you can see some things on the screen here. I don't know if the camera's in focus enough for you to be able to see, but there's the ISO setting there. There's a battery indicator up the top. There is a storage indicator there to tell you how much storage you've got left. And down in the bottom corner, there is a little camera icon that allows you to change the camera settings. So when it's powered up, it's actually, right now it's in the photo mode. And if I hit the little video icon, that'll take us to the video mode. And that's really the only mode that I actually use. You can actually scroll up and down to change the settings as well. We're in video mode, but I can hit camera mode and then go from standard to HDR to burst to interval or night shot. So it takes you through the different modes of each particular setting of the camera. So in video mode, you've got standard, HDR, time lapse and bullet time. Down the bottom there is a overall custom mode. So that one's set as star lapse, and that one is not set as anything. So you can basically set up some preset custom settings if you want to as well. I really don't do any of that. I mean, that star lapse one is for taking star lapse videos, like time lapses of the stars. I don't do any of that. I just really use it for video. So that's what I'm on, normal video. You'll see the icon down in the bottom corner there is now a video camera. The 360 lens is now pointing up at the light above me at the moment. So my video mode, I've currently got it on. It's a low ISO and quite a high shutter speed because I've been using it outside. So I don't know if you can see those numbers there, if they're in focus or not, but down here we've got ISO 100 and 1/800 shutter speed, and it's running at 5.7K, 25 frames a second. So it shows you some details on how you currently got it set. You can also swipe the screen. So if you swipe down, it takes you to some deeper settings, such as the screen backlight level. You can lock the screen. You can set up to use with your wireless earbuds, like Apple earbuds. The one that's most important really is the cog icon there. That one takes you into actual deeper camera settings. I won't bother to go into too deeply today. There's plenty of videos on YouTube about those deeper settings. Really, I mean, they're just standard camera settings. The most important one, I think, really is the video encoding, which I have set to H.265 because H.265 is just a higher quality codec than H.264. There's things like wind noise reduction, you can format your SD card, lots of other things. You can use a Bluetooth remote control. When you get this little bar down the bottom, that means you can swipe up. There's other modes. You can swipe from the left to view stuff that's on the camera. There's currently nothing on there. Go out of that. You can swipe from right to left and set up things like shutter speed or the white balance. So I'm in complete manual mode at the moment because that's how I like to work. You can set it up for auto. If you just hit the auto button there, you'll see that's quickly suddenly changed into much more light. You can see what's going on, and there is me. There I am looking down. So on auto mode, it's a lot easier to just let it do what it does. However, I don't like auto because sometimes it does things that I don't want it to do, like changing the white balance because the sun comes in and out, various other things that I just don't like. So I like to set it on manual, and then I can set what I want. Just a quick tip on some of those settings. So ISO on something like an action camera, and then cameras in general, it's always best to try and keep the ISO as low as possible because that reduces the amount of noise in the video. So that's a bit of a tip for anybody doing any video at all. Try and keep the ISO as low as possible. I generally control the amount of light coming into the camera because the ISO is so low. I control my light using the shutter speed. And shutter speed is not so important for doing things like filming skateboarding. Really, ideally, you want a faster shutter speed so that you don't get so much blur. The lower the shutter speed, the more motion blur you get. But that really only comes into effect when the shutter speed's like super low. Whereas with something like this, the shutter speed, I mean, I've got it set at 800 at the moment. So that's going to be super sharp. People in film like footage with motion blur because it gives the human brain the illusion of fast movement, but I don't like, and generally skateboarders and skateboarding videos aren't good with motion blur because you can't really see what's going on. So to me, it's best to have it pin sharp and no motion blur. So faster shutter speed means sharper imagery. Anyway, that's about as far as I'm going to go with doing the settings on the camera itself. What I'm going to do now is connect the phone to the camera so that I can use the camera app on my phone and control all of it rather than using this tiny little screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is connect my phone app to the camera. So I've got the Insta360 app on my phone. I'm going to hit that and it launches the app itself. It's found the camera. It knows that it's the One R and that's the serial number of the One R. It says, do you want to connect? Do you want to join the Wi-Fi? Yes, I do. Hopefully that will connect. Annoying things with the app, you get these pop-ups come up because, you know, they're trying to sell you stuff, but that's just kind of annoying and you can just come out of it again. So I may be connected to the camera now. I think I might be, but the way to check is just by hitting the yellow camera button there. It should spawn the app for you to see what's going on. And at the moment, it looks like I'm connected. I can't see anything though, and that is probably because I've got the ISO setting so low. So what I will do is go into the camera settings and I will change that to auto just so that we can see, oh, there we go, that's me. And you know, you can see now, apart from my big fat thumbs, I'm going to now not bother looking at the GoPro anymore, and we're just going to look at my screen on my phone. So I'm holding the camera and you get the idea of what's going on with the stitching now. You can see my fingers here, you can see the stitch line, and it's kind of, there's a seam that you can see between the lenses. Now that doesn't actually matter in the greater scheme of things as you're further away from the camera itself. So if I'm not holding on to it, in fact, what I'm going to do just to prove the point, I'm going to put the camera into its holder and put it on the selfie stick, and that way you will be able to see that the stitch line kind of disappears. So let me just drop that into its holder. I'm going to plug the cable back in for the power because my power is low. So I'm holding it by the bottom at the moment, and you can see that, you know, you can see the stitch line. If I then put the selfie stick on and let go, there you go. The further away I actually hold it, so if I extend the selfie stick out a bit, you can now appreciate that the selfie stick kind of goes invisible. What you can see there at the moment is actually two things. You can see the cable, I think, if I just rotate this around a little bit. Can you see the cable? Maybe just about. But what you can see, it looks like a little bit of fur here on the side. Yeah, that kind of furry thing. That's actually a little wind reduction muff that's on the camera at the moment that I haven't trimmed off. So I need to cut that down so that it doesn't stick out quite so prevalently. But you can see the shadow of the selfie stick, but you can't actually see the camera at all. Hopefully there you can see it on my knee. It's just the shadow, that's all you can see, and my phone is on my lap, and this is the GoPro. So yeah, hopefully that now gives you an idea of what it looks like, and with the camera app on your phone, you can actually drag around the picture and see whatever it is you want to see. So that just reinforces what I was saying before about don't worry about where you're pointing that lens. You know, don't tilt the camera around because it doesn't do anything. I'm tilting it now and it just restabilizes. So, you know, I'm literally turning the camera around. That's 90 degrees, that's 180 degrees, and all that you're seeing moving is actually that fluff, that wind muffer that's on the front of the camera. That's all that you're seeing actually rotating at the moment. So don't try and rotate the camera. I'm just reiterating, don't try and rotate the camera because you don't need to. And all of this movement, this is not set in stone, what I'm doing here. This is what you can edit later after the event. So later when we're doing the editing, you're going to see everything, the entire 360 view just like this, and you'll be able to drag around just like I'm doing now. You'll be able to drag around in your editing and change the view and get the shot that you want. So don't worry about that either. So hopefully that's given you an idea of what you see. And now as well, as you can see on the screen, we've got more settings. So I've flicked it to auto mode just then so that we could see what was going on. You can set the white balance and drag it up and down. So you can set the white balance. I'll just change that to 2700 Kelvin and it's looking kind of blue. I'll put it back to 5000 because that's roughly what daylight or indoor light should be at. We're in the video mode. I can change some other settings. So that was the settings thing there. If I go to manual, it's going to go dark again because I've got my settings preset, but you can set more in the manual mode than you can in auto. So let's just go back to auto so you can see what's going on. There's another setting there where you can change the kind of capture that we're doing, just like on the screen. So we're in video mode, I can change to HDR, time lapse or bullet time. There's also a setting called log, which is the log color profile, and that flattens the color profile off completely so that if you're doing post-production, color correction, color editing, you might want to record in log format because it captures the most information, but it's a lot more work to get the color right. So if you just want a run and gun type situation, then just leave it on standard. That'll be just fine. So what you're seeing right now is log, and that's why the color looks a bit washed out and flat, because I like to do my own color balance and color correction. If I turn it off, does the color profile change? Yes, it does. So look, it looks a lot more saturated now because we're in log. So there's a lot more color going on. But I prefer to have it in log mode. Also, you can change the resolution. So there I'm currently running at 5.7K 25 frames a second, but you can run at 30 if you're in America, or 24, there's more filmic look. It can jump down from 5.7K to 4K and run at 50 frames or 30. You can go down to 3K and run at 100 frames. So you can do some sort of more slow motion type stuff, but it's only 3K, and 3K, like I explained in the first video, 3K is not going to be great for the entire 360 sphere. If you want to know more about what I'm talking about there, go back to the first video where I talk about the resolution versus the entire 360 sphere. So for me, best setting, I'm in the UK, 25 frames a second, stops lighting flicker because the mains frequency of the electricity here is 50 Hertz, so I need to use multiples of 50 for suppressing the flickering lighting. If somebody wants to know more about that, I can explain in the comments. Just leave me a comment below and I'll explain. So that's the resolution settings. and we're on standard video settings. So that's all I really need to do, all that you should really need to do. There is another icon up the top there. You can add a histogram which shows you the exposure, and you can also hook up GPS as well if you want GPS data embedded in your camera data. What you're seeing right here, it says up there, preview is compressed, and that means that the video quality you're seeing right here is not very good. Because it's compressed, it's low resolution, just so that it can be real time and fast. So I'm moving around and it can capture that on my phone without too much trouble, as it does lag a little bit and stutter here and there, but you can see what's going on pretty well. There's also a photo mode, so as we saw just now, where you can just take stills. There's a video preview, but stills. You can go live with Facebook Live or YouTube Live if you've got enough subscribers. You can be live on Facebook, for example, and be dragging it around and reframing in real time. So the normal live function is full 360, so people will see the entire 360 view and they will have to drag around or use a headset, like I explained in the first video. If by this point you've not watched the first video, and I keep referencing that first video, that's how important it is really to watch the first video first, because I keep referencing what I've said in the first video. So maybe go back, pause this one, go back and make sure you watch that first one first. Anyway, that's all I need to say about using the app. At this point, really, you've set up and you're ready to go, and you've got your selfie stick and you know what you want to do with it. Really, the only thing to do is to hit record, and it will start recording. You move the camera around, you can reframe and see what's going on, but you're looking at me and my camera. I'll pick up my power supply and just hold it out like that, and here I am in my house, selfie stick on the 360 camera. And then what I'll do is I'll use this video here to demonstrate the editing of something like this, and also I'll show you how I edit my skateboarding video, because it's quite a lot more complex. But I'll show you now how to edit what we've just captured actually in the Insta360 app rather than on the desktop computer. I like to do my editing on the desktop computer because I can do a lot more with it, but if you just want to do a real quick edit to put up on social media, the camera app on your phone is a really quick way to do that. So let's take a quick look at that actually on the phone. So there, I'll just hit stop on that recording now, and I'm going to kind of ignore the camera for a certain amount. So we've captured the video, and when you've captured a video, you'll see down to the left of the video shutter button, so that yellow video shutter button that's there. If you look to the left of it, you'll see a very small representation of a piece of imagery. If you touch that button, it should connect to the internal memory of the camera, and you'll see right now, you move the camera around, and that's what I've just recorded. Going on, but you're looking at me and my camera. I'll put my power supply and just hold it out like that, and here I am in my house, selfie stick on the 360 camera. And then what I'll do is I'll use this video here to demonstrate the editing of. So anyway, there you go. That's what I've just recorded, and as I said, I can use the app to drag around and see what else is going on. I can drag down the bottom on the timeline, literally forward and reverse the video. So this is where I can actually start editing the video. Okay, so there you go. That's using the Insta360 One R. Hopefully you found that useful and interesting. If you haven't already checked out the first video, go and check that out, because you'll probably have missed some bits and pieces. It's well worth watching that one. And in the next video, we're going to talk about editing the footage and publishing it online or on social media, whatever. Basically finishing the content and uploading it online. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks for watching. I'll catch you again soon.